Hello, and welcome to the top 5 most honorable weapons in Chivalry 2. In my opinion, these are the fairest weapons in the game. I'm going to show you how to use these weapons effectively, so you can fight on the battlefield with skill and honor. Now let's get into it.
Oh, the Iron Fist!
At number 5 we have the Warhammer. I like to refer to this one as the Mike Tyson of the one-handed weapons, because this thing hits like an absolute truck. This takes the number 5 spot because it's a one-handed weapon, and y'all already know a one-handed weapon always has a little bit of cheese to it. But the Warhammer doesn't feel as cheesy to me compared to most of the other one-handers, and here's why. The Warhammer is stuck on the Guardian class, making movement speed and dodge timing very slow compared to classes like Footman or Vanguard, making this a weapon that struggles to close the distance. So it works best on defense, where if you're playing the objective, attackers will push you directly and you won't need to worry about closing distance. And we all know defense is the most honorable team to play on. You want to focus on using overhead attacks, alternating between light attacks and heavy attacks so that you don't get gambled, because the Warhammer is not the fastest weapon, and therefore you can leave yourself open if you carelessly swing or charge attacks up while not using active parry off of a counter or riposte. The small cheese aspects of this weapon come from overheads that look similar to slashes, and the fact that this thing nearly one-shots knights with specials and heavies if they have some damage done to them already. So make sure to use all of these strengths to defend your team. At number 4 is the Cavalry Sword. Bet you weren't expecting 2 one-handed weapons on this list, but the Cavalry Sword, in my opinion, has a wonderful balance to it. It has a stab that is almost as long as a one-handed spear, but also attacks that are as slow as most two-handed weapons. So you lose the one-handed cheese tactics that most one-handers get, while gaining the strengths of a slower two-handed weapon's counter window and dragging ability. The Cav Sword also deals relatively low damage to enemies. All of these aspects make it a weapon that has plenty of counterplay and is both fun to play with and fun to fight against. A truly honorable combination. While this weapon may be fair, don't sleep on it. I've seen many high-level players bring this into the competitive format and do very well with it. The increased counter window, along with the shields that you get on the Footman and Guardian, turn you into a pretty effective tank. If you can leverage the shields and counterattacks, you can survive team fights for a very long time and pick off low-health enemies with your spear-like stabs and long slashes and overheads. I can't be the only one who just loves the sound this weapon makes when you hit somebody. Definitely one of the most satisfying weapons to use in the game. The number 3 spot goes to the War Axe, the least cheesy and most balanced of all the axes. This weapon has a longer range and better drags than the Battle Axe, but deals less damage. But also, the drags on this weapon are more readable than the funky and desynced drags that you're going to find when you play the Executioner's Axe. This weapon does very well in 1vx fights if you know how to target switch, and is also a good flanking weapon. So be ready to push through the front lines with this weapon and open up a space for your team to more easily push forward. Using a weapon that requires you to be highly aggressive in a team fight is very honorable. Just be sure to attack off riposts or counters, because this weapon has a pretty long wind-up animation, which will leave you open to getting gambled from faster weapons. Also, this is another weapon that makes the list in part because of the nice sound it makes when you hit somebody. The sound engineers really did a good job with this one. Number 2 is going to have to be the Longsword. This one might get some heat, because some of you regard the Longsword as cheesy and overpowered, and some of you might agree that the Longsword is honorable. I debated with myself to give this the number 1 spot, but decided since there could be some argument that this weapon is cheesy, I put it at number 2. I think this weapon is honorable because it's a very medium-ranged weapon and also does pretty low damage for a two-handed weapon. But I know that those two weaknesses are somewhat offset by the very fast speed and fluid combo times. This is one of those weapons that a skilled player can use to completely lock you out by using overhead excels that are too fast to counter and excelled slashes that hit almost immediately due to the quick wind-up time of this sword. But regardless, I'm saying this weapon is honorable because the low damage of the longsword allows plenty of time to adapt to it. If you haven't figured out the counterplay to getting excelled, By the time that they've hit you with the same trick 6 times and haven't killed you yet, then you need to spend some time using this weapon so you can understand it better. As someone who spends a good amount of time on the longsword, trust me, it's not optimal to need to hit somebody 5 or 6 times just to finish them off. The longsword is no doubt the most satisfying weapon in the game because it feels so fluid to use. The short wind-up time allows you to cancel attacks in an instant, and if you want to learn how to triple feint, this should be your go-to weapon to practice it with. Taking the top spot in the list is the Great Sword. Now, I want you guys to leave a comment if you saw this one coming. I consider this weapon to be the honorable version of the Messer, and that's because unlike the Messer, this weapon has animations that are actually pretty readable, making this a weapon that can easily be beaten when up against a player with greater skill than yourself. But in the hands of a master with good spacing and mastery of countering, this is perhaps the best noob-slaying team objective weapon in the game. The Greatsword has a good fluid fighting style, like the Longsword, but has better damage and range without entering the realm of being overpowered like the Messer, which can basically two-shot most classes with light overheads. If you use the Greatsword, you won't see many people complaining to you that you're using a broken weapon because it just feels fair. The enemy has time to react to your moves, and you have a long enough weapon to outspace people and slay multiple enemies at once in teamfights. The Greatsword is agreed upon by many in the competitive team objective community to be the best option. So if you do find yourself in one of those lobbies, don't be surprised to see this weapon pop up in almost every team fight. The Poleax takes the honorable mention spot. This weapon just barely didn't make it onto the list because it's actually just a little bit too good. This weapon combines the reach of the polearm and the speed of an axe. It also has the stamina negation perk that allows you to fight for much longer without getting stammed out. I really wanted this weapon on the list, but the overhead attacks and special attack are so oppressive due to the range and speed. And although the slashes have short range, I found that the slashes being short doesn't really affect this weapon that much. I hope you enjoyed this top 5 list, and if you got anything useful, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the battlefield. Peace out.